keep my money tight. But when the hard times come, I know I'm gonna be alright. Yeah, well, you keep my head above the water. Oh, yeah. There's better days ahead. Keep your head above water. Oh, yeah. I ain't ready to lay down yet. As long as I can draw a breath, I plan on being round, keeping my head above the water and the rest of me above the ground. Well, the bills keep going up, work just can't be found. The folks down on their luck, sleeping on the ground. In this land of opportunity, it's something I thought I'd never see. Not gonna let it get the best of me. No, no, no. Now keep your head above the water. There's better days ahead. Keep your head above water. I ain't ready to give up yet. As long as I can draw a breath, I plan on being around, keeping my head above the water and the rest of me above the ground. Keep your head above the water. There's better days ahead. Keep your head above water. I've often heard it said, as long as I can draw one breath, you know I plan on being round, keeping my head above the water, the rest of me above the ground. Keeping my head above the water, the rest of me above the ground. Keeping my head above water, the rest of me above the ground.
The name of that song is called Keep Your Head Above Water, and it was written and recorded by my special guest today, Nashville R&B blues rock artist Shaun Murphy. Shaun, welcome to the Friday Afternoon Music Mix.
Thanks so much, Gregory. It is so great to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I've been looking so forward to this interview. You were kind enough to send me a copy of your latest album, which I want to be sure and point out is called I'm Coming Home. It was released on June the 2nd of 2023. Shaun has a total of 11 albums released under the name of Shaun Murphy Band. But you were kind enough to send that to me. I responded back to you and you were agreed to be on the show, and I was just thrilled to death. Although I had heard of you and I'd played your music on my show, I had no clue what your background was. My jaw just kept dropping. I want to talk a little bit about it, but I know we could spend hours here, you and I talking. I know you started your career, let's go back to the beginning, in 1969 when you went to Detroit and went to work with Motown. A lot of people don't know, especially listening today, that you actually spent over 50 years with Bob Seger.
Gosh, I feel tired. Actually, I was with Motown and we recorded the Stoney and Meatloaf record in 1970, and it was released in 71. I was in the Ann Arbor Blues Festival in 1969. playing in this festival was so amazing, and probably the most unbelievable lineup ever, ever, ever. You know, you had Muddy Waters, you had Freddie King, you had Sunhouse, you had John Lee Hooker, you had Luther Allison. I mean, the roster was crazy. One of the things that I'm getting chills right now, but one of the things that just dropped to my knees when this lady came out on the stage looking like, I don't know, kind of a janitress. She had on this plain pants and plain man's shirt kind of thing. And she just walked up to the microphone and just opened her mouth. And it was Big Mama Thornton. And I just lost my mind. And she changed my whole trajectory from then on.
You spent some time in Detroit, of course, with Motown. I got to tell my listeners that they've got to go onto your website, which is just absolutely amazing. It's ShaunMurphyBand.com. You give under About, and that'll keep them busy for about an hour reading on there.
Yeah.
But I mean, your affiliation with Bob Seger, Eric Clapton, Phil Collins. I mean, here's just a partial list that I wrote down here. Joe Walsh, Bruce Hornsby, Glenn Frey, Moody Blues Band, John Hyatt, Herbie Hancock, Bob Seger, Eric Clapton, Phil Collins. That's just a partial list of the people that you have worked with over the years. I don't even know where to start. And then to top it all off, as I was so wonderfully pleased to see that you had spent 16 years with one of my favorite bands in the world, which is Little Feat. Talk to me a little bit about that, please.
Well, I was living in LA, of course. As I said before we started recording, I had met Paul Barrere when he was working with Dallas Hodge. So we kind of got to be friends. Then it wasn't till, I think it was 1986 that I met Bill Payne and Fred Tackett on a Bob Seger tour. He was kind of planning on retiring, or at least taking some time off to raise his two children. He wanted to include a bunch of players that had been in the studio with him for all these years, but had never been on the road. And Fred Tackett and Bill Payne were the two that he chose from Little Feat. We got to be good fans on the road. And then after that tour ended, they decided they were going to put the band back together. And they called Bob and I to come in and do some backgrounds. So we worked on Let It Roll. And then, of course, Craig Fuller stepped into Lowell George's shoes for a few years. After Let It Roll, poor Bob didn't make the cut, and they kept calling me back to work on the records. I did on the next two records as well, representing the Mambo and Shake Me Up. Then we... gosh, what happened after that? Everything is like happening all the time, right around in that area of my life. So all these other tours that kind of sidelined me. After Shake Me Up came out, then Craig decided, well, he just had this young family, and he just decided, you guys are touring too much for me, and I just got to back out. So Paul called me up, and they were between record companies, and he said, come on over to the house. We're going to do some pre-production and do some background singing, see what we're coming up with. So I did. And then later that day, they said, look, we have this song that was written by this guy that helps us out with some lyrics and stuff. And we don't know how the track is going to lay. Could you just go home and learn the song and sing it so we can just see what's what, how we can work this out? So I did. I came back, and it was Romance Without Finance. At the end of the song, they just sat around and looked for a second. And Paul turned to me and goes, so if you found yourself in the middle of nowhere on a bus with 12 other guys, what would you do? That's how they asked me to join the band.
And as you told me before we went on the air, that one of my favorite albums of theirs you were highlighted on, which is Chinese Work Songs. And it takes a lot to laugh. It takes a train to cry. It's one of my favorite songs off of that album. And I should also point out, too, for those who are not familiar with Craig Fuller's name, that he started his career with Pure Prairie League as
Yes.
their front person.
Mhm.
And wonderful voice.
Yes.
That's great. Let's do a second song, if we could, please, off of your new album that's called I'm Coming Home. This particular one is called Evil Memory. Sound good?
Yes.
You told me that you loved me. Said no one could take my place. And babe, I asked you where you been. You couldn't look me in the face. Dirt and dealings going on. I go crazy when you're gone. Dark shadows haunt my very soul. In this house alone. Yeah, now you're gone. My house is empty. Didn't leave me much. Did not leave me much as far as I couldn't see. As I fight back these tears from all those lonely years. You left behind one thing I didn't need. Your evil memory. Your evil memory. Oh, baby, it's killing me. Yeah, your evil, evil memory. Yeah, now you're gone. Oh, my life is empty. Didn't leave me much. Did not leave me much as far as I couldn't see. As I fight back these tears. As I fight back these tears. From all those lonely years. You left behind one thing I didn't need. Your evil
This new album, Shaun, it's just amazing. I love every song that's on it. It's getting tremendous feedback from the reviews that are coming in. I want to point out you were a double award winner in 2013 from Blues Blast Music as Best Contemporary Blues Album for Ask for the Moon, and then also as the Best Female Blues Artist for that year. And you have 3 Grammy nominations. You've done well. No doubt
I keep
about
knocking
it.
on all those doors.
And you keep kicking them in too. I want to point out that all of the albums that you have, all 11 of these, and some wonderful merchandise is available on your website, ShaunMurphyBand.com. You have some great social media, Facebook.com/Shaun Murphy Band, Spotify.com/Shaun Murphy. By all means, go look on your YouTube.com at Shaun Murphy Band. There are some just fabulous videos. I noticed one of them. There was a young slide guitar player that you had on I Ain't Got No Money.
That's Tommy Stillwell. And speaking of great slide players, Jack Pearson played a lot on my Loretta album, about 5 or 6 songs. But as far as Ain't Got No Money, that was Tommy Stillwell from the Beat Daddies, who is a member of my band now. Oh, he's incredible.
He's very good.
But one thing I wanted to digress to is on Facebook. I was hacked about 5 weeks ago. Of course, Facebook didn't do anything about it. So I finally just had to start over again. I lost almost 17,000 folks. I've got 2 Facebook pages as usual. My friend page is I am Shaun Murphy, Facebook.com. The other one, my business page, is The Real Shaun Murphy.
That's good to point that out so people can see that. Tell me a little bit too, if you would, Shaun, about the album that you did with Meatloaf called Stoney and Meatloaf. And then I want to ask you, how did you get this name Stoney?
Back in the day, I thought I was going to be an actress. I was a sort of a burgeoning singer, rock and roll kind of singer at that point. A few things were happening well. Of course, the Ann Arbor Blues Fest. However, Bob wasn't touring a lot. I was trying to decide what to do. And my husband at the time came in this little ad in the paper about auditions being held downtown for this play called Hair. I said, yeah, that sounds great. So we went down there. A long story short, Meatloaf and I used to be in a lot of festival rosters together. His band from when he lived in Midland, Michigan, went under 2 names, Popcorn Blizzard and Floating Circus were the 2 bands. He was on a lot of rosters. I got to know him pretty well, and we got to be friends. And then he went off, moved to L.A. He was bouncing around looking for something to do, and he was randomly in this parking lot, and he said, well, I'm kind of looking for a job. And the guy goes, right around the corner, they're auditioning for this play called Hair. So he went in. They loved him. I mean, how can you not? He went in and they said, well, we love what you're doing, but this tribe is full. We're just going to open a show in Detroit. And by the way, do you know any singers, that would be good for the show? And he goes, yeah, but I have no idea how to find her, because it'd been a couple of years. And fast forward a little bit, I went down to audition, and it was at the Vest Pocket Theater down in downtown Detroit. I walk in. Of course, the stage has just got a piano. That's where you go audition, just with the piano. The casting people have this kind of table in the middle of all the seats. And so, the door opens, the light comes in to the room, and all of a sudden I hear, there she is! And it was Meatloaf. He says, there she is, I've been trying to find her. That's how that connection got reestablished. So I walk on stage and I started singing my little song. I don't know even what it was. And I got about halfway through the verse and, okay, thank you very much. That'll be enough. And went, well, that went well. So I went home, but by the time I got home, of course, there were no cell phones back then. My phone was ringing. I picked it up. He said, you got the job. Wow. So we did that for a couple of years. And the first night of opening night, at the Vest Pocket Theater, there was a lot of people from Motown and Rare Earth Records in the audience. Called us up the next day, said, hey, we want to put two together. And we had no scenes together, we sang no songs together. They thought it was quirky names, and with good singers. So we said, okay. So we did record, which, by the way, they did a reissue of it about a year and a half, 2 years ago, called Everything Under the Sun. And you can find it on Amazon, I think. It includes about 10 other songs that were never released by both of us. It's pretty cool. Randy Fairman, who wrote all of the liner notes and everything, did just a wonderful job putting it all together.
Everything Under the Sun.
Good.
I've got it. I'll get a copy of it. Let's go back to your current album. How about if we do a third song? It's called Too Many Lovers.
There's something on my mind and I got to say about the problem in the world today. There's something on my mind and I got to say there are too many problems in the world today. We've got too many lovers and not enough love. Dodging again. Now you have bring these babies into the world, whether it's a boy, child, whether it's a girl. Now when the mother of your child needs a little help, baby, remember she didn't get that baby by herself. Now you wanna run around trying to be slick, playing on all of these girls, just a little trick. Talk about too many lovers, not enough love. Too many lovers, not enough love. Too many machos, not enough men. Responsibility, you're dodging again. Yeah. There's something on my mind and I got to say about the problem in the world today. There's something on my mind and I got to say there are too many problems in the world today. You got too much gold, too many friends. Stand up and let the world know you're a man. You got too many curlers in your hair. You got a minute for you to have them here to put them there. You got too many lovers, not enough love. Too many lovers, not enough love. Too many machos, not enough men. responsibility of dodging again. We got too many people trying to be a star. Too many people don't know just who they are. We got too many men thinking they're the best. Remember, too many fools in the kitchen gonna make a big mess. We got too many lovers, not enough love. Too many lovers, not enough love. Too many machos, not enough men. Responsibility, you're dodging again. Yeah. Ow. Got too many lovers. Well, come on, come on, come on.
Shaun, did you write most of the music yourself?
No, I
or
wrote
co-wrote?
2 of the songs, the title track and Keep Your Head Above Water. I wrote with my 2 guitar players, Tommy Stillwell and Kenny Kramer. Now, Tommy came in with a great bulk of the song already, and then we just kind of digested it and shoved it around in different pockets and things like that, and it finally fell into what it is on the record. That's kind of the usual case where you get together and you sit around for some hours, and then you go home, and then you come back and sit around for some hours. And finally you get a song, or not. I'm Coming Home was a totally different. I've done this once before with Kevin McHenry, where I just walk in. He sits out in the studio and he just starts to play the grand piano. All these words come to me, and that's what happened with I'm Coming Home. I think it's got more meaning to me than almost anything I've written, but yet it took about 12 minutes to write. It just came. Yeah, just so proud of it. I'm proud of everything on all of my records. They're all my babies, you know.
I want to ask about 2 of the people that you've pointed out on your website. I know that you recorded in Montserrat with Eric Clapton.
At Air Studios, which was George Martin's studio in Montserrat. Sadly, no longer there due to the volcano. I don't think there's a lot of the island is there anymore. We'd have time off from recording, so we'd be out by the pool. I kept looking over by the hill, and I went, those aren't clouds. It looks like steam or something. Oh, well, that's just the volcano. It never erupts. Okay. But yeah, but it was a chance to work with Phil Collins, who is just the most consummate professional. Every day he had just this growing list of things like A, B, C, and D. We did them right in order, one thing after another. We did all 13 songs in 3 days. But after the first song, we walked in because I'd never met Eric, and Marcy had vouched for me. I mean, this was Eric Clapton. Holy crap, you know, he was one of my heroes. So I was kind of tongue-tied, but after the first song, he came into the vocal booth and he said, well, how would you two like to support the record on tour? And we just kind of looked at each other. Of course, Marcy's worked with him many times and written the core, you know, Tangled in Love, just a number of unbelievable hits for Eric. And we both just said yes at the same time, and that's the tour. Woo!
50 years with Bob Seger.
Yeah, Bob and I have the same birthday, May 6th. Of course, he's way older. His manager used to have a lot of clubs in town, Punch Andrews, in the Detroit area. And my bands at the time played a lot of those clubs. I'd opened for Bob in a couple of them along the way with my band. At one point, I said, well, I'm just going to go to hit one of his clubs. He was going to be there and pick up my check for the band and stuff. So I walked in. Who should be playing? Cream. So I got a chance to really, you know, talk to Bob, meet Eric in passing at the same time. So it was like kismet for sure. Bob, I started working with him when he was in the Borneo band. And that was Jamie Oldecker, Marcy Levy. That's when I first met her. Marcella Detroit. See, Alto Reed was in the band. Dick Sims was playing organ and kicking bass pedals, so there was no bass player at the time. And then Drew Abbott was the guitar player. So I got a chance to work with them for a while. And then, of course, Bob decided to disband that band. He kind of went off to do some more writing. And then when he came back, he had pretty much the Silver Bullet Band all set. That was Stranger in Town and, oh gosh, what's the other album? Anyway, the two albums, 76 and 77, that's what I call them. So he started touring with them. He was just using the guys singing background. And at one point, he started listening to the tapes. So he called me up and he goes, I think you should come back and sing with the band again. So that was in 78. So I've been with him solid since 78 on. And of course, after listening to those tapes, he liked it so much, he said, I'm going to bring another girl in. I went, oh, great. You know, I'll have a buddy on the road. So he called up Laura Creamer, who I never met before, but she had an all-girl singing band that Punch Andrews used to manage back in the 60s, but she'd moved out to California. She came in, no rehearsal whatsoever. She was to start that night. I leaned over to her. I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to pull on your shirt, push you into the mic, and you'll sing something with me. And when we're done, I'll pull you back. We'll stand there. She was a A+. I love her to death.
I read where on his farewell tour in 2019, he made the statement, I never worked a day in my life, really. Which I thought was funny.
At one point, I thought maybe he would come out of retirement just for a short tour. But I don't know. I know he'll never stop writing and recording. So that's just in his blood, keeps him going. I don't know. As time goes on, another threat of COVID's coming back. Some people are on tour that are canceling their tours because of it. And I don't know. It might be just too scary for him. And I wouldn't blame him one bit. I'm just glad that he's healthy. He's out there sailing his boat and golfing and having a good time and got a fantastic wife, Nita, and two great kids. What more do you want?
My special guest today, R&B artist, rock artist, boogie artist, a little bit of everything, Shaun Murphy. She has a new album out that is fantastic called I'm Coming Home that was released on June the 2nd, 2023. It's available at all outlets, or you can also purchase it along with merchandise on her website at ShaunMurphyBand.com. Social media presence at Facebook.com, Spotify, and of course, a great YouTube channel. I want to thank you so very much for being on the show today and wish you the absolute best. Take care of yourself.
Thank you so much.
Let's go out with the title cut of Shaun's new album, I'm Coming Home.
There's a hope chest in the corner with all my broken dreams. A heart that's filled with darkness thousand voiceless screams. Seems I've always chased those echoes that only I can hear. There's shadows on my footsteps that brings my rain in tears. Crushed hopes pave the way, or to shallow graves that cry for peace. Crash to endless waves, fate sealed by no release. And I'm coming home, and you hear me calling your name. Time is slipping, falling as I fade from view. I'm coming home. If I left you for